Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network. And now, let's experience Center for Spiritual Living Midtown.
Okay, guys, I'm going to start this morning with a mindfulness practice because, as I'm sure you've noticed, the world is kind of crazy right now. You can't even open your phone or check the news or pay attention to what's happening in the world without being thrown into fight or flight and feeling, tension and stress and fear. So this happens because we care. We care about humanity. We are compassionate people. This is a stressful time. So I discovered this account on social media, on TikTok of all places. This guy, he's a hip hop artist, but he doesn't really post that much about his music. His name is Jackson Hunter, if you're interested. He makes the same TikTok video over and over and over again. And it's this mindfulness practice that we are going to do right now. So this is what you're going to do. In 3, 2, 1, care less. Inhale. Let that out. Care less again. Inhale. Let that out. Care even less. Inhale. Let that all go. You're doing a good job. That is what he says every time. That is the script that he follows. And, I follow him and his videos show up in my feed and I do it every time I see him. I mindfully stop to care less and to breathe. Now, he is not asking us to actually care less about the world. It's about noticing that we are holding on to and caring about the world so tightly with tension in our bodies. And it's about pausing to check in with ourselves and take care of ourselves for a moment. So I hope that helped you. So as Norma mentioned, the topic today is about living on the edge of the possible, focused on collective action, how communities, particularly spiritual communities, can come together to explore what's possible for the world. Now, Norma mentioned how in the notes for CSL for this topic for this week, they had this great contemplative question, and I'm going to talk more about this. What would be possible if we really believe anything is possible? What would be possible if we really believe that anything is possible? That's what I'm supposed to be contemplating as I deliver this talk, theoretically. But what this question kind of reminds me of is, walking up to someone and saying, tell me everything you don't know. You can't do that. You can't answer that because you don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's possible. But obviously the point of this kind of question is we're supposed to think about it consciously, contemplate it deeply. What is possible? Now, I know that you are all aware that there are a lot of things right now to be outraged about. There are a lot of things that spiritually minded people, folks like ourselves, would like to see stopped or changed or fixed. There is so much to be angry about to denounce, to protest, and to resist. So while I was thinking about this time in history that we're living in, I remembered something that Dr. Bob used to say when he was here. He used to say, stand for something, but against nothing. Stand for something, but against nothing. Now, that is a powerful new thought idea spoken from a place of high consciousness. And it is tricky to do that these days. At least it is for me. It's hard. So, when we contemplate and consider what is possible in this world, we really do have to look at what we are for, what we want to experience. This idea of a world that works for everyone and what it could possibly look like. We need clarity around this and clarity around the possibility of it happening. And because we are spiritual folks who believe in new thought principle, this, new possible world is going to be rooted in humanity loving each other, people respecting each other, living in the truth of our peace and our harmony and our unity. Now, I think we also need clarity around this idea of being on the edge of it. That's part of the title today. And the whole month's theme is about embracing the edge from different perspectives. Today's specifically is about being on the edge of what's possible. But where is this edge? What is the edge of something? I think in this instance, we're talking about being on the brink of or on the verge of what's possible. That's the edge. And this makes me think about my yoga practice. Now, stick with me here for a second. I am of the age where flexibility and balance are things that I need to pay attention to. So I do what's called yin yoga, which is slow yoga, where you hold passive positions and postures for several minutes. And there's a saying that gets repeated a lot in these yin yoga classes. And that saying is, find your edge. That's what the instructor says all the time. Find your edge. And what that means is locate the precise point where you feel significant resistance, stretching and compression without inducing pain. It's that sweet spot where you're doing something, but it isn't necessarily hurting. It can definitely feel a little bit out of your comfort zone, for sure. It's uncomfortable, but it's not to the point where you're injuring yourself. So that's the edge that you're looking for in that kind of yoga. So if we apply that to living on the edge of what's possible as a spiritual community, a group of people who want to see the world uplifted to a higher consciousness, who want to see the world move in a direction toward oneness and harmony, what would the edge feel like? How do we know when we're on the edge or at the edge as a spiritual community? What does this mean for us? I think it means going a little bit out of our comfort zone, just like with that yoga stretch. I think it means taking our spirituality beyond the hour that we spend together on Sunday mornings on YouTube or Facebook or Zoom, or even when you guys meet in person once a month. It means walking out on the edge, stepping into a larger idea of who and what we are and what we can co-create using the principles we study. It means practicing this out in the very world we wish to positively influence and impact. So I found this quote from a talk that Ernest Holmes gave in 1959. This was a year before he died. This was at the dedication of the Church of Whittier, California. He said, "We have yet to see what the multiple consciousness of a church body can do. There is a law of good. There is a power in the universe greater than we are, and we can use it. And it will multiply its effects 1,000 times through the united consciousness of a group. We are so powerful. And I think what he's saying is the power of the universe is multiplied, amplified, when the consciousness of a group is focused, united, and aligned. We saw a wonderful example of this over the last several months with the Buddhist monks who did their peace walk. I'm sure you all followed this and know all about it, but here's just a quick summary of it. There were 19 Buddhist monks who walked for 2,300 miles over 108 days. They went from Fort Worth, Texas, and walked all the way to Washington, D.C. They walked to promote inner peace, compassion, and mindfulness. It was not a protest. It was spiritual in nature. It was not political. They walked in their traditional robes, and along the way, they handed out peace bracelets and gave peace talks, sharing messages of hope in this divided society. These monks were practicing peace, which is their normal practice. They were being their authentic selves, practicing their spiritual principles out in public, in a very public way, which I'm sure was a little bit out of their comfort zone. And talk about comfort zone, some of them walked barefoot or in socks, and they went through like winter storms, snowstorms. Now, they had a lot to deal with on this journey besides just weather issues. They dealt with protesters and resistance. There were groups that showed up along the way of their walk and shouted at them and held signs. During one of their peace talks, I saw this video where the head monk was trying to get the crowd to just be in a moment of silence, and someone shouted out, "You're going to hell." I don't even have words for that. So if you can just imagine for a moment, you're out in public with your fellow members of your spiritual community. You're doing your spiritual practice. You are showing up as peace in the world out in public, and you're being yelled at. That is absolutely uncomfortable. That is feeling that edge. Now, fortunately, that kind of response was very rare and unusual, and it paled in comparison to the positive response that the monks received. They have an incredible following on social media. Last reports that I read, their Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok accounts total over 5.8 million followers. That's a lot of people. People are interested in this. They're needing this. Thousands of people traveled to wherever they were walking along their route just to get a glimpse of them, to offer support to them, to listen to their messages at their scheduled stops, and to be in their peaceful presence. It was estimated that 24,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. for their global loving kindness meditation at the conclusion of their walk. Now, so I'm just going to ask you to think about this. Do you think they succeeded in promoting inner peace, compassion, and mindfulness? Did they bring an awareness of peace to the world? Did they get us to consider the possibility of peace, of being peaceful while walking on the edge of their comfort zone? I think they did. So it's one thing to talk about an idea like this, and it's another thing to actually get out and do something like this. So I wanted to do more than just talk the talk. I'm a big talker, I know. I wanted to walk the walk. Now, in January, I knew this talk was coming up for several months. And in January, I met a man in my community. I live in Brookings, Oregon, as Vance mentioned. Very small town on the Oregon coast. There's only about 7,000 or 8,000 people who live here. And if you could put the picture up, this is my friend that I met. His name is Basil. And he was very moved by the monks' peace walk. He wanted to hold peace walks in our town of Brookings. So he put it on the community Facebook groups for our town. Social media is a way of putting yourself out in public too. So it was interesting that before we even really got going, there was pushback and resistance. Some of the people who commented on the posts, didn't understand and were demanding to know what our agenda was and, what we were protesting, even though we explained, the only agenda was peace, the awareness of peace, to show up and walk as an expression of peace in the world, our true nature. It was not a protest of anything. People were still suspicious. So we walked. Starting the last week in January, we walked 3 times a week, and we did this for 3 weeks. Now, the last one was a couple days after the monks finished their walk. We would gather at the library here in town, and we walked for about 1.5 miles through downtown Brookings on Highway 101, and then we would go back to the library. And we did this in meditative silence. Basil held his sign about walking for peace. We had no political signs at all. And I'll just start with the uncomfortable parts. As far as being on the edge out in public doing this, we had a couple thumbs down from people. In fact, I laughed out loud. This guy drove by me and he slowed down to read the sign and then went, he looked like a cartoon. It was so silly to watch his demeanor change. I don't know how anyone can be against peace. It was just comical. We had folks who shouted out things like "Go Trump" or "More ICE," which it was not a political thing. I don't know. It was just an interesting thing to witness and see. We had people do one time. I didn't know there was a name for this. It's called coal rolling, where people blow black smoke from their exhaust with their diesel vehicle. That happened once. Those moments were uncomfortable for sure. But I would say 90 to 95% of the response was wonderful. We had people honking their car horns and waving as we went by and smiling and peace signs and thumbs up and fist bumps. Like, people were excited and happy to see what we were doing out there. And I have to admit, it was magical to show up out in the world in public, be in a meditative state, just consciously expressing as peace into the world, my true nature of peace. It felt really good doing these peace walks. And, I found myself mindfully noticing things downtown that I wouldn't normally pay attention to. Things like the trees that are down there and the lampposts and, beautiful plants outside the businesses downtown. There's benches and seating areas that I didn't even know were down there. I noticed that there's a corner of downtown where you can see the ocean. There's a beautiful view down there. I was truly in a state of divine beauty and peacefulness walking through my community. Now, the very first walk, Basil did by himself because he hadn't put it out there on Facebook yet. And the group grew. If you can show the next picture, we had 26 people show up at our last walk, which is really great for a town this size. Now we did stop doing the walks because Basil went out of town for a month. But people are already asking us to do it again. It's very interesting. Some of the comments on Facebook are asking when the next one's going to be. People saw us practicing peace out in public. And the group grew because people are interested in that and interested in joining that. Another experience that I've had that was similar to this was with a group I attend called Universal Heart Center. They're out of Crescent City, California. And it's sort of like a CSL discussion group. It's just not official. They're not officially linked with CSL. But it's been around for about, I think more than 20 years. We meet every Sunday. We follow the same topics that CSL does. And we each just take turns volunteering to present and lead the discussion. Well, back in 2013, long before I moved out here and met these people, the group discovered something called the Happiness Sprinkling Project. And that was created by Laura Levine. She's a life coach and a retreat leader. Now, a happiness sprinkling is when a group of people, it doesn't have to be a spiritual group, hold signs with encouraging words in a busy part of their community for about an hour. The signs, and they are professionally made, high quality signs, say things like, "You are beautiful. You are loved. Go for peace. Breathe. You are delightful. It's going to be okay. Trust yourself. You are enough. Life is good." The intention is to show up and spread joy, to be the presence of joy and happiness in the world. And it's a great excuse to play music and dance like a fool on the side of the road. I will admit, I've done these. They're so fun. So I have a picture of one of our happiness sprinklings, if we could show that one. Uh, it's so much fun. I just can't even explain it. As a group, we try to do them about once a month. I missed this one, so I'm not in this picture. But we also do one as a float on the 4th of July in the little parade in Crescent City. It's so fun. So my friend Denise, who has run these sprinklings for years, knew the history of it for when they first started it. So I reached out to her, and she said when the group first started doing them, people were really suspicious of them, and they thought they were selling something, you know. And she said during the COVID years, which, remember, COVID lockdown, that was crazy time, but they would spread out and do the happiness sprinklings, and people would see the sign that said breathe, and they thought it had to do with the George Floyd "I can't breathe." You remember, there were all those protests, and it wasn't a protest at all, and or the sign that said "It's going to be okay." People would spew hate and flip them off, and it was crazy. It was a crazy time. That was the group getting out there on the edge in public, for sure. But thankfully, people have started to know now who we are and what we're doing. And the response is amazing. People love to see these sprinklings, these happiness sprinklings. There are car honks and waves and smiles. And I will say from experience, you can see people's mood shift immediately when they read your sign and then they see you out there dancing, and people just relax and they smile and they laugh, and it's happiness. It's happiness in action. And I love doing these events because as you lift others up in love and joy, you get lifted up in love and joy. It's totally reciprocal. You feel like $1,000,000 and you are positively influencing the collective into what we believe is possible. Joy and loving unity. Ernest Holmes once said, "You find me 1,000 people in the world who know what religious science is and use it and live it as it is, and I myself will live to see a new world, a new heaven, and a new earth here." We get out there and we use it. We let people see us practicing these principles. I think that was a great quote from him, but I think his numbers are way off. I don't think it takes 1,000 people who know what religious science is to change the world and make a difference. I think it takes two. We've all heard the scripture line that says, "When two or more are gathered, I am there in the midst of them," meaning the divine is present. That is Matthew 18:20. But the line right before that one says, "If two of you agree on earth concerning anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven." Now, the New Thought version of that might sound like, "If two of you can recognize the wisdom and oneness deep within you, get clear on your vision, anything is possible, because that's the way spiritual law works." We know we are very powerful individually, but our gathering together triggers even more of the power. I think in this moment in history, this time that we're living in, we are being called to gather. Yes, in our church communities, but also just in our communities in general. I mean, look at what those monks accomplished by simply walking, taking it out of the monastery, practicing and living their peace in public. I mean, the following and the attention that they received, which was not their intention, but it's a rippling and a spreading out of this principle. I didn't know that my community had so many like-minded people interested in gathering for peace until this man chose to make a Facebook post about it. And now we're all friends and have the intention to continue doing things and to gather and do the work in this community. So your takeaway today is to make the connections, form the communities, or use this one. I mean, it's far bigger than CSL Midtown, but you've got a group of like-minded people here, right here. Seek out and find your like-minded others and find your edge. Get out there, get out of your comfort zone while practicing your spiritual principles. Even if it's just talking about your practice with people, because I know that great things are possible when we do this. And the last thing I want to leave you with sounds like a shameless plug. But if you enjoyed this talk and you're not familiar with me, you don't follow me yet, please follow me on social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And on Facebook in particular, I have a private group that you are all welcome to join. I make a video every day. It's called One Word, One Thought, One Question. It's an opportunity for spiritual discussion, reflection, and connection. I would love to have you come join. Thank you so much, CSL Midtown, for having me.